The sound of the door opening made me smile happily because there was an end. "Good evening," I said. There's no one here." I turned to look for the source of the sound. It sounded like a table being pulled. Damn. I have decided to continue my bachelor's education in Flowers City, Bandung, a small city in West Java, Indonesia, but known for its universities that are renowned throughout the country. Yes, that's right. My future learning place will be Institute of Technology Bandung, which is trusted to always produce quality graduates. Here I won't tell any mystical incidents during my studies, although my campus is famous for spooky stories that always go viral in the internet. But until I experience it myself, it's just mere myths for me. Armed with information from the internet, I managed to find a suitable place to stay within my budget. Although it's quite far from campus, at least I have a foothold for unexpected needs. Unfortunately, despite saving money by walking to campus and eating at cheap restaurant every day in Bandung, $50 only lasts for my needs for just 2 weeks. I sighed in frustration. How is this possible? I can't possibly ask Mom for money. Back in the village, she must also be struggling because she has to support my 2 younger siblings alone, ever since my father chose to remarry. If only Mom hadn't insisted on me getting a scholarship in Bandung, I could have helped her with farming in the garden, but I know if I still chose to help with farming, my father's family would continue to look down on us. Rian, Ika called. She's my college friend. "Hi, Ga," I answered. "I heard you're looking for a part-time job." I nodded. "But I haven't found one that fits my class schedule yet." "Here," Ika smiled, handing me a flyer. "Job opening, cashier at Nona Bakery." "Yeah, I found this in front of the campus and thought of you," she replied. "Look at the shift hours. They have shifts from 6 o'clock to 14 o'clock, 14 o'clock to 22 o'clock. And 22 o'clock to 6 o'clock. But, Ka, why would a bakery be open 24 hours? It's not like it's McDonald's." "Well, maybe for people hanging out or feeling hungry late at night, tired of always having McDonald's, maybe they prefer healthier options like pastries." I nodded in agreement with Ika's point and continued reading the flyer. "Rian, check this out," Ika pointed at the job applicant requirements section. "No indigo allowed. Maybe there's a ghost there." I laughed. "Ka, ghosts are just myths. I've never even seen one, and I'm from the countryside." After returning from campus, I went back to my dorm to freshen up and headed straight to Nona Bakery. It turned out to be quite a long journey, having to change public transport 3 times. But for the extra income while here, it wasn't a big issue for me. "Good evening," I greeted the cashier. "I'm Rian, here to apply for a job." "Good evening, I'm Dewey." "Just a moment. Let me call Mr. Agus." "Okay, thank you, Miss Dewey." Miss Dewey smiled and left me alone. I looked around. For an area as vast as this, Nona Bakery seems rather empty compared to the cake shops and malls. Maybe this is what's been making me feel uneasy since earlier. You know, imagine if you were in an old building and it's deserted, like there's a chill creeping up your neck. "Hello," greeted the middle-aged man in front of me. "I'm Agus." I stood up and bowed slightly. "Good evening, sir. I'm Rian." Mr. Agus smiled and asked me to sit back down. "Are you here to apply for the cashier position?" I nodded. "Yes, sir." "Does that mean you're ready to work shifts?" "I am, mister, but could I adjust my schedule around my campus hours?" "Sure, you can discuss that with Dewey and Gunter later." I smiled happily. "All right, sir. You can start working now." "Now, sir?" I asked, surprised to be asked to start immediately. "Yes, now. You can join the 10 p.m. shift tonight, okay?" "Okay, sir," I agreed, considering it's Saturday tomorrow and I have no classes scheduled. Don't worry, those who take the night shift always get a bonus, Mr. Agus reassured. Great, thank you very much, sir. Dewey, please teach Rion and let him know the things he shouldn't do after midnight. Miss Dewey nodded. Rion, she called me after Mr. Agus left. Come here, follow me. I followed her, and then Miss Dewey started tinkering with a cashier desk and taught me how to operate it. Then she taught me how to knead the dough that the night shift would cook straight away by the chef the next morning. Any questions? Miss Dewey asked kindly. Already clear, miss. Oh yes, Rion. Miss Dewey suddenly turned serious. Between midnight and 5 in the morning, after your work is done and you're bored, don't just sit around or sleep. It's better to play games. But why, Miss Dewey? It's not good to be idle alone at night, and if you sleep, you might not hear if someone comes. I nodded in understanding. And also, don't play loud music, swear, or laugh loudly if you're on the phone with a friend. And why, Stewie? It might disturb someone. I laughed. This bakery is quite far from residential areas, so even if we had a party, it wouldn't be heard. I'm serious, Miss Dewey sighed, smiled, and whispered softly. Not humans, but ghosts. Ghosts. Yes. I smiled in response to Miss Dewey's story. Not that I didn't believe her, but it could just be Mr. Agus and Miss Dewey's plan to initiate me, like orientation at schools. Before I knew it, 2 hours had passed since I took over Miss Dewey's shift. Slowly, the shop began to quiet down. Even though tomorrow is Saturday and this bakery is open 24 hours, I yawned in boredom. All the work had been done, from kneading dough to cleaning up. The sound of the door opening made me smile happily because there was an end. Good evening, I said. There's no one here, I continued, confused. I walked towards the door and closed it again. Perhaps at night, the wind gets stronger, making it easy to open that wooden door. I'll just play games, I said, bored, and started to unlock my phone. Actually, since earlier, I've been confused why this store, so deserted, has to be open 24 hours. Not to mention hanging out. There isn't even anyone buying. The door rang again. I immediately put my cell phone in the drawer. Hello. My words were cut off. I fell silent before finally walking back to close the door. Oddly, the door opened again and there was no one. But this time, there was no breeze at all. Could it be that the hinges of this old door are starting to break? I turned to look for the source of the sound. It sounded like a table being pulled, but very softly. Damn, I blurted out unconsciously, startled. Hello, good evening. Nona Bakery, I greeted warmly, though my heart was still pounding. Are you safe? Miss Dewey asked on the phone. So far, I'm okay, Miss Dewey, I replied. But the bakery door hinge seems to be broken. It keeps opening by itself. Just close it if it opens. It's not malicious, just mischievous. There's no one. Miss, it just keeps opening on its own. I assured her because Miss Dewey thought someone was playing with the door. Yes, I know, she replied as if understanding. Just close it if it opens. Miss, are there rats here? No, there aren't. Why? Miss, earlier I heard a sound like a table being pulled. I thought it was a rat. It's okay. Just ignore anything you hear. I nodded. Yes, miss. I'm going to rest now. Don't forget my order. Got it, miss. I glanced at the clock on my phone screen. Time seemed to pass so slowly, and it was only 2 a.m. There were still 4 hours left before Gunter took over my shift. Mister, wake up. I opened my eyes, startled because I had apparently fallen asleep without realizing it. I'm sorry. Miss, is there something I can help with? I fell silent and looked around. Empty. Then who had woken me up earlier? I was certain I had heard a woman's voice, and I could still feel her breath in my ear. Could it have been a dream? But why did it feel so real? Mister, a middle-aged woman called from outside the store door. Mister, come here. Mister, she continued, knocking on the door. I grumbled, slightly annoyed at the woman's behavior. Why did she have to ask me to come out? If she wanted to shop, she could come in and choose which cake to buy without bothering people like this. Good evening, ma'am. I smiled reluctantly. What would you like to buy? Mister, please don't come in yet. The woman pulled my hand. Why, ma'am? I asked, confused, as she suddenly pulled me away from the shop. There's someone with a machete who wants to kill you. What? I exclaimed, not seeing anyone. Ma'am, there's no one inside. Oh dear, you can't see it, she replied in panic, continuing to pull me away from the bakery. But ma'am, I can't leave the shop. Oh, do you want to die? It's a curious ghost, she replied angrily. Look at your hand. I fell silent, staring at my arm where suddenly there were marks of a hand's grip. It didn't hurt, but the marks were vivid and clear. I had felt something strange since entering the bakery, but my rational mind dismissed it as coincidence, like the sound of mice or perhaps the wind. Yet the grip marks on my hand proved this was beyond reason. Ma'am, who are you really? The woman fell silent, her face turning sad. I'm Marnie, and inside, Susie, she's my daughter. Your daughter? I asked, surprised. Yes, she nodded. She committed suicide. Why? I asked, still shocked and confused. I told her not to fool around with married man, but she wouldn't listen, she replied bitterly. Then she got pregnant. That scoundrel Agus refused to take responsibility and fired my daughter. That night, Susie quietly returned here and hanged herself. I remained silent, trying to digest the woman's story. Every night, I come here to check on things, because Susie reenacts her death every day, she continued. First, the shop employees often sees the door open by itself, because Susie is still undecided about suicide. Second, if they hear a faint sound like a table or chair being moved, it means Susie has decided to end her life. Third, she starts to manifest herself, either through sounds, apparitions, or touches, and then she kills her prey. But I hesitated. I don't know Susie. The woman smiled sadly. My daughter harbored a deep resentment toward men during her life. Regardless of who they were, she would brutally kill them. But why does Mr. Agus still keep the shop open 24 hours? Because he's wicked, she replied cynically. If there are no people here at night, Susie will rampage and destroy the entire shop. If the shop suddenly gets destroyed, it'll make the news, and his affair will be exposed. I sat down weakly under the street lamp. It felt like a dream. My first job almost cost me my life. Hopefully, in the future, I won't have to deal with supernatural beings again.